Ladies and gentlemen, look at this beautiful red sauce. This is the kind of red sauce that you wish you could make all the time. This is what you get at good restaurants. I'm going to teach you all kinds of techniques and different methods and approaches to making this very good tasting salsa. This is red salsa, and guys, it is a nice spicy dish. Well, howdy folks. Welcome to Texas Cooking Today. We are in the heart of Dallas. That's downtown Dallas behind me there. And folks, we're about to get in the kitchen and cook some delicious food. What you're watching right now is one of my tutorial versions. And if you don't need to know the techniques and how to pull this recipe off, if you just need the recipe, the previous episode, it's much shorter. That's just the recipe version. But these tutorials go into technique, methodology, history, and a lot of other information. Let's get in the kitchen and get busy cooking this delicious dish. Come on. Today, I'm going to be making a red sauce. Red sauce is delicious. Now, if you've ever been to a Mexican restaurant and you've had a red sauce, you know what I'm talking about. They bring it to the table along with the chips. Delicious. You just want to sit and keep eating that. Well, folks, that's what I'm going to show you how to make today. This is easy to do. It's made with fresh ingredients, and once you've learned a balance that suits you, you're going to be off and running. So what I want to do is teach you the ins and outs of making red sauces of all kinds. This isn't easy to do, and it's fun. Let's take a look at these ingredients, and we're going to get started making red sauce. Come on, let's get at it. I have more ingredients out here than I plan to use in my salsa, but I wanted to give you a wide variety of ingredients that shows you pretty much all of the things that you either can or don't have to incorporate in a red salsa. For instance, some people find the jalapeno, this little guy right here, to be just way too hot, and they don't like these things at all. They don't want the flavor, they don't want the heat, none of it. And so something that's a little milder, like this, or maybe a bell pepper, wow, that works. It'll work in this dish, so you get options there. Also, you can use dried chilies for this. Now back here I have a piquin. You can add these by boiling some and then running through a food mill and adding that paste to the dish. I don't recommend adding them directly, and I'll show you why in a little while. Of course, there's tomatoes involved in a red sauce, and that's what we have back here. This is all tomato. When you're making a red sauce, you need the tomato because that's one of the base ingredients, but at the same time it adds this beautiful flavor and plenty of acid that really brings this dish up. Also, we're going to be using some garlic. I've got some lime juice here. I have onion, some cilantro. In some places in the world, this is called coriander, so don't be fooled by that, guys. That's what you're looking at there. Some cilantro is what we call it here in the States. This is all pretty easy. We're not going to use all of this salt, but a pinch of it. Folks, this is a wonderful recipe, and I'm going to show you how to get a lot of character out of this dish. While this is a really simple recipe, it gives the opportunity to teach a lot of different technique and a lot of different lessons in this one very simple video. So today's tutorial, we're going to get into a lot of stuff. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the tomatoes, all right? You've seen I've got some tomatoes already diced up. Those are diced canned tomatoes, guys. These are the ones that you buy at the store. Now, what's the difference? Okay, let me explain something. If you are fortunate and you can go to a local hot house and get these where they have turned red while growing still in the ground, then you get a very special tomato. Okay, it's a very sweet tomato. It has a lot of flavor to it. It explodes with flavor. However, when you go to the grocery store and you purchase a tomato, whether it's attached to a vine or not, you have a tomato that was ripened after it was cut from the plant. Now, you could say, oh, but those that are on the little snip of vine were vine ripened. I guess legally speaking, technically speaking, you could say, oh, they're vine ripened. However, the term vine ripened came about from farmers, and they used that term to refer to a tomato that turned red on the plant while the plant was still planted in the ground and still growing, and the tomato was still hanging from it while the plant was growing. That is a tomato that never makes it to the grocery store. You'll never see one of those in a grocery store, guys. You'll see them in a farmer's market occasionally if you can find a local farmer and not somebody that's selling produce on the side. You gotta find that or a hot house to get a fresh one. So they're hard to find, and if you can't find them fresh, here's the trick. Every single tomato in the fields, when they're picking tomatoes that is red, every one of them goes into canning. That's right, all of them. They go into canning and food processing to produce those wonderful canned tomatoes. Haven't you ever noticed how the canned tomatoes are sweeter than fresh tomatoes? I mean, you haven't noticed that taste. It's just that simple. That's the tomato sauce, tomato paste. The reason that tomato paste is so sweet, those were fresh, fully ripened tomatoes. And yeah, they're good. Folks, the difference is profound. And unless you've grown tomatoes, you really can't know for sure. But I have grown tomatoes, and I know for sure, and I've been on the farm, and I've seen the difference in how things are processed. All right, so it's just that simple. Tomatoes that are red and fresh off of that vine go into canning. So if you want that, get the canned tomatoes. You'll never hear me advocate anything in a can other than that one item. It's the only thing that's worth getting in a can. But for that reason, it is worth getting in a can. Other things, everything else, no. We're using fresh. Well, except for the dried chilies. That's a whole different thing. So, there's your lesson on tomatoes. There's a lot of other goodies I'm about to show you. We're going to get busy on this. I'm going to show you how to process those fresh tomatoes, or you can use canned, and it'll just be your choice, okay? Folks, in the event you're using fresh tomatoes, I would like to mention that if you don't want the skin in your food from the tomato, and I hate seeing that in a salsa, you can take your tomatoes and blanch them. You can also fire roast them, and that will cook off the skin as well. There's different ways of handling skin on a vegetable, and today we get to kind of explore those. What I want to do to this is called blanching. So to blanch, we need a couple of items. I need some hot water, and I need some cold water, and I have here nice icy cold water, and here I'm bringing some up in temperature to boil. As soon as it boils, I drop this in there and give it about 1.5 minutes. No more than 2 minutes, then pull it out and throw it in the cold water. It is effectively at that point blanched. As soon as this comes down in temperature enough to touch, you pull it out of the cold water and that skin will simply peel right off. That's all there is to it. Okay, we have a good boil here. Blanching is as simple as drop it in the boiling water, then transfer it to cold after a couple of minutes. I like to move it around so it gets blanched all the way around. There we go, it's rolling really nice. So that's about 1.5 minutes. That's all it takes. Now, if you see the skin break like it did here, your blanch is finished, all right? That's all there is to it. Since I have gone ahead and boiled some water for blanching, what the heck? Let's cook off some chilies for a moment, and as soon as they have gotten nice and soft, I can process them down through a food mill, make a chili paste, and use that to flavor my red sauce with any flavor of dried chili I want. Today I'm using what's called a piquin. It's hot, it's small, it's fiery hot, and it has great flavor. As you can see here, blanching is simple. Look how that skin comes off of it. Isn't that easy? All right, there is a blanched tomato that has been de-skinned. I have boiled these chilies now for about 5 minutes, so that what that does is it kind of breaks that skin soft and loosens it a little bit, allowing the water to get into the chili and to allow it to soak. So the thing of it is we're trying to make the inner wall of the chili rehydrate so we can separate that part, that little bit of meat, from the skin and the seeds inside. So we just got to give it time, and then we're going to run it through a food mill. Now folks, we have dealt with the tomato and that skin, but what about that right there? Can I blanch it? Well, yeah, you can. You can also put these under a broiler, heat them up, throw them in a plastic bag, and it'll sweat the skin off of it. You can put them directly on any open flame, you know, like a direct burner. You can set it right on there and just cook it right off, okay? You can put it on the grill. You can put it, like I said, under a broiler real close and char it, or in a pan on the stove and char it that way. There's a lot of ways of doing this. And guys, if you want to get right down to it, you can even use a torch, just like this. One of these guys it'll get it done quickly. It's efficient. And on smaller chilies like this, I think it's easier to do this way because they kind of want to fall off of the burner if you do it on the stove. So remember, Texas cooking today, it's about teaching technique, okay? So I need to show you the best and latest techniques to get the best results for what you're trying to do. I can do each and every one of these this way. And then afterwards, I can peel that skin off, just like so. And I get this wonderful roasted chili flavor while the chili underneath is still mostly good and fresh. Look at that, folks. Isn't that beautiful? I think every kitchen should have one of these little torches. It's a wonderful way of handling a lot of stuff like this. And don't buy an expensive kitchen torch. The cheap one's the one you want. Folks, when it comes time to work with your chilies, I'm going to give you a little word of forewarning, and this is an important one. Wear gloves. When you're processing chilies, the oil inside of the chili that makes it just fiery hot, like on these jalapenos, that oil, called capsaicin, gets on your skin, all right? Now you can say, yeah, but I wash. All right, well, it's true. We wash, we try to stay clean. But the problem is that oil, number one, does not wash off easily. So you're stuck with that on your skin for hours. You don't even know it's on your hands because you don't really feel it on the hand so much. Some people that are sensitive will. But if you rub under your eye, let's say an hour or two after handling these, suddenly your eye is burning and you're realizing, oh, even though I washed my hands, it's still getting to me, okay? So that oil doesn't wash off easily. It just kind of sticks around. So do yourself a favor and wear gloves. You've seen me slice these open. I simply cut the crown off. I'm going to remove the core. Now, if you're thinking, Chef, if you do that, you're going to cut out the heat. Well, yeah, I'm making a mild salsa here. And folks, if you don't want yours mild, don't do this step, okay? This simply removes the heat for those that want something that's not going to be quite as fiery, okay? Also, get those seeds out of the way. The hottest part of a chili, the most capsaicin containing portion, is the little membrane that attaches the seed to this inner rib. That membrane is the hottest part. The rib itself is the second hottest part. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, this isn't a beauty contest on your cutting, okay? So just kind of get them cut down a little bit like so, all right? If I were to dice that a little finer, you would see that it would come out to about a half a cup. It looks like more than that because of the way they kind of stack against each other, but you've really got about a half cup there. And my onion, oh yeah. So on that onion, we'll remove the top part. have it just to make it easier. I want to make a cut down the middle. A couple of other cuts. Okay. That looks better. Okay, half cut. When it comes to that garlic, what we need to do there is just basically process it in a minor way. I want to remove any scabs. If you see any green part on the other end, chop that off. There we go. Now, these I can process down. What I want to do there, I don't want to do a lot of work, just crush them. Okay, just like that. Now these I'm going to cook in a little bit of oil, and only for a couple of minutes. And that's because, guys, never, never, never put raw garlic in any dish. I don't care what the dish is or what the recipe calls for. You don't use raw garlic for it, okay? Garlic should always be cooked in some way or fashion. And all we have to do here is a light cooking with a little bit of olive oil, and then it goes right into the blender with everything else, and it will come out fantastic. But if you don't do that, you get a raw garlic flavor. It's not very good tasting. If you see green in the garlic, that can give a bitter quality. You can pull that out. It's not an issue. I generally don't have a problem with it, so I just kind of leave it where it's at. Okay, I have my little pot coming up in temperature there. There's my garlic. I'm going to put just a little bit of oil in here. Doesn't take a lot. Now, as we can see, I've got all of my ingredients laid out now. And this is the way you want to do this. You never want to start processing something and not have everything ready to go when it's time to cook. Okay, my garlic comes off. And I can take that and put it right in there. Now that'll stop that cooking process, and I can start putting the rest of my ingredients into this blender and get it ready to go. Okay, we put the garlic in there. Next, my tomato, some jalapeno. Get in there. There we go. Onion. Want my lime juice. Now that lime juice is important, guys. It brings out other flavors. It's nice in and of itself, but that citric acid helps pull out flavors and other stuff. Even though we have citric acid in there from some of the fruit that we've put in there already, like the tomato, we need to add a little more of a different type, and it pulls out even better flavors. So here we have this ready to go. And we're ready to go on this. Now, if I want to do it right, I'm going to start by pulsing it to get those things pulled down. Now, my luck with blenders is I usually need to get something in there and work it a little bit. And once I've done that once, it usually goes right at it. Let's blitz it. There we go. That is good tasting. All right, now I've ran that through the blender. If you'll notice, it's not quite red, a little more to the green side, but I do like a lot of jalapeno in mine. So, it has a nice color to it. I need to put this in the refrigerator to get it good and cold while I work on another part of this wonderful recipe. Folks, I have here a food mill with a small sieve in the bottom. We're going to use this to make a high quality chili paste with our Pequin chilies that we had earlier. Now, why I don't put some of these into the food or into the blender and blend them in with the salsa that I make, well, this needs to be made a little differently because of the nature of the chilies, the fact that they're dried. This method I'm showing you works far better, and it'll give you a chili paste you can use in all kinds of different things. So this is similar to using like the cayenne powder or paprika powder, except you have a processed paste that hasn't been dried afterwards and turned into a powder. This is top end stuff. I'm going to run this through a strainer real quick, and then we'll put it in this and mill it out. Okay folks, my chilies are done. They're nice and soft. They look sort of like little beans, don't they? I guarantee you they're not beans. Just simply mill those down. We're going to have a paste underneath here in just a minute, and I'm going to take that paste and we're going to use it in our salsa. I have finished doing my milling. Now let's take a look. See inside here? All I see are seeds and dried husks. It's not very eventful, but when I look underneath, oh, looky there. There's where the business end of this is, and there's already some down in this pot that's fallen off. So there is that top-notch chili paste product that we're looking for. All right, I've just placed this over my burner. I'm bringing it up in temperature. I have a beautiful, beautiful red sauce there. Isn't that nice? A little bit of salt. Now folks, this can be used in a multitude of ways. I have here a wonderful sauce that I can use in place of sauces that are bottled. All right, now this is a very hot sauce right here. And once it cooks down a little, I can turn it back into a paste if I wish. And that paste can then be taken and refrigerated, or even for that matter, you can put it in ice cube trays and freeze it, and you have a wonderful product that way that can be pulled out and used in stews, in soups, in salsas, in all kinds of things, okay? And you make multiple different kinds of paste like this. Those can be combined to make all kinds of different dishes. So this is just a cool way of doing this. So I cook a product like this quite on purpose. Number one, this is essentially a spice. You never do raw spices. Same way it was on that garlic. We cook the garlic first. And on something like this also, because it was dried and then we've rehydrated it, it's best to go ahead and run it through a process like this. It at the very least is going to pasteurize the product so that it doesn't have any pathogens in it. You know, you don't want any bacteria or anything. It's going to cause it to spoil prematurely. All right, so you have a better product in short. You can see this has changed a lot. It's only been a couple of minutes on the stove here, and I have it over a medium-high heat, so there's plenty of heat down there for me to work with. I'm turning off the heat. I have a beautiful chili paste product again. Isn't that nice? Right there. Don't forget, we're going to want some of that cilantro. So I just want to lightly chop. And I don't need a lot of it, just enough to really bring out flavor in my dish. There we go. We have what we pureed earlier. Get that in here. Here's about a tablespoon of that red sauce. And I'm going to want some cilantro. So I put that in there also. Let's get that stirred in. Now this is the point where we need to get some chips and taste this and adjust our seasoning if necessary. If it needs salt, if it needs more cilantro, if it needs more chili paste, whichever, we can adjust our flavors. As I mentioned, we always taste what we're making. That is delicious. A little more salt. That is what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, that is spicy and it is good. Oh yeah, that is as spicy as my salsa verdes, but it tastes like a red sauce, and that's what I like. Now, like I said, if you want yours milder, a little less chilies in there and a little less of that chili paste. And that's all there is to it. Red sauce. Now folks, when it comes to making a good red sauce, as far as your ingredients quantities, what I've started with there today, this back here, that was 1 cup of diced tomatoes. And that's where our ratios begin. So we have 1 cup diced tomatoes. I'm going to be adding to that a 1/2 cup of some onion, and that would be diced onion. And we're not looking to make it pretty. You've seen it. It was just chop it up, measure it out, and get it in there. Same way on the chilies, whether you're using something milder or something hotter, either way, you're going to be using about about a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, depending on your likes. I like it a little bit spicier, so the 1/2 cup side. I'm going to be using a couple of cloves of that garlic. You can use up to 4 cloves on this particular measurement. If you want to do it with fresh tomatoes, works the same as with those canned that you saw, and that is going to be the same thing there, 1 cup diced tomato. As far as how much of the cilantro, well folks, that's sort of to taste, and I want you to learn how to add cilantro slowly, because remember, that's bitter, and it's going to make a dish bitter if you're not careful with it. That's the reason we don't blend it in. That's the reason we add it after it's made. All right? And as far as if you're going to use a chili paste, you're going to add something like this. These little guys, they're hot, so it depends on which chili you use and what flavor profile it has. But remember, you start with 1 to 2 teaspoons, add that, mix it in, and work your way up. And remember, something like that is best cooked, all right? Folks, there it is, a very simple recipe. I hope you enjoy this. That's your red sauce. Okay. As I said, this one's a spicy one. Folks, that was really a beautiful, beautiful red sauce. And that's the way it should be done. Make it a beautiful presentation, something that stands out and is special. And then that way, your guest can enjoy both the beauty as well as that delicious flavor. That's the kind of a red sauce that I really like. Fabulous fresh flavors. They just pop. It's so good. I'm going to be enjoying a lot of that in a little bit. It's one of my favorite things is a salsa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this show, for watching Texas Cooking Today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I really appreciate that to those that subscribe and who are my regular viewers. Thank you, guys. Also, if you haven't looked at the channel, hundreds of different videos on there, okay? All kinds of recipes, all kinds of good food. You're going to find something you're going to like. Thank you for watching again, and if you would, please share this video, tell others about Texas Cooking Today, and enjoy your day. That's it, folks. That's all there is to it. That was a great recipe, and now you know everything that you need to know about how to pull it off. That was one of my tutorials, and I really appreciate you watching. If you would do a few other things for me, got my comments box down there. Please fill that thing up. If you have a comment, suggestion, if you have an idea for another recipe, requests, whatever, put it down in there. Believe it or not, I read them. Thank you for watching. Check out the channel. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And folks, please just have a good day. Bye-bye.